Foot up, I knew I had my hands full. The problem? Well, it started right down here. Welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. If you couldn't spot the problem before, after a couple of swipes of the grinder, it should be a lot clearer now. If you're wondering what those white lines are on the other claw, that's just some marks from when I was cleaning the debris away with my knife. Typically, you wouldn't remove hoof horn near the axial wall, but because of the corkscrew rotation in this claw, we had to take a little bit of that away just to bring that wall back to its normal state. The other claw, the lateral one, is actually in pretty good shape, so I don't need to take a lot away from that sole, but I do have to notch this out because the problem that we're going to find is up underneath here. If you were wondering if that little mark actually hit a problem, I think that can confirm it definitely does. Now the real work begins. We know where that lesion is, and we also know that there's separation up above. And yes, that's right. The two are connected, so we need to remove this loose horn all the way from here, all the way up to the top. What's hard to appreciate in the video is how these knives are designed and the way that that hook at the end of that knife works. I'm able to hook that loose hoof horn and pull it away as I make those cuts, which makes it that much safer. I don't have to really worry about getting into any of the corium underneath because as I make that cut, I'm lifting that hoof horn away and making that cut safely. You can see how debris has worked its way up underneath that loose hoof horn and why it's important that we take it away. What you can appreciate with this video is how much more difficult it is to work your way through that hoof horn, that wall horn, versus that solar horn. It's much harder, and you can see that as I'm making these cuts. When I go through that solar horn, that knife kind of zips right through there like it's going through a knife through hot knife through butter, rather. And where you get into that wall horn, and it's much firmer, much more dense, and much harder to cut through. Once again, as always, that chlorhexidine comes in handy to wash both the hoof and my tools. One of the more difficult areas to reach in any hoof trim is this area in the interdigital space in between these two claws. This hoof horn is also loose here, so we need to get it away. However, there's just not a lot of room to work in there, so you got to kind of contort yourself, get that knife maneuvered in just the right spots so we can remove that hoof horn as well safely. This heel bulb area is another area where we typically don't do a lot of trimming, but also in this case, that hoof horn is loose, so it needs to come away. As we move in for a little bit different view, we can see right here is the initial lesion. That's what caused this hoof horn to separate in the first place. And we take a look up above here, we can see up in that heel bulb area, there is some digital dermatitis there as well. The rest of that area there, that real soft looking stuff, that is an actually new layer of hoof horn that's formed there, and the corium lies just beneath that and was what is creating that layer of hoof horn. Hopefully, if we do this right, this entire sole will once again be replaced by a hard, firm hoof horn. But first, we need to get all these little pieces away that are here now so that it doesn't irritate the lesion or that area up above where that digital dermatitis is. We're gonna get that cleaned away, then we can thoroughly wash it and get it treated with salicylic acid. And of course, we're gonna need a block on that other claw. We don't want her walking on this one. Now, most of the time, I'm gonna get that block in place before I wrap this foot up. However, in this case, I've got this claw nice and clean right now and trimmed up, so I'm gonna get that wrapped before I prep this other claw. I don't wanna get any more debris and fling it into that area that's already cleaned up so nicely. So I'll get it wrapped, then I'll go prep this claw and get a block on. Now, you might think, well, you're wasting time here. This cow is gonna need to be in the chute longer than she normally would have to because you didn't get that block on in time. But in actuality, I have 3 other feet to trim on this cow, and that's really what I end up doing most of the time. I'll get this claw prepped, get a block on it. While that glue is curing, I'll move to those other feet, get those trimmed up, work my way back to this one then, and put this foot down, and that cow is done. That's why you see in a lot of videos, it's not just the one foot that I'm working on. I actually trim all 4 feet on all the cows that I trim. It's just the one with the block that you see me do in most of my trims. The glue is now cured. This foot can go down. We'll give you a good view of it as she's standing on it so you can see kind of how that block is placed and how she's now putting weight on that foot. And we'll let her out and you can see how she walks. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you all on the next one.